Imagine owning a piece of land that's been in your family for generations. Now picture watching strangers treat it like their personal parking lot, day after day, week after week. That's exactly what happened to Davac, a Croatian farmer who had enough of people ignoring his request to stop parking on his property. But instead of calling the police or putting up barriers, Davac had something else in mind. Something that would make these trespassers think twice, using nothing but his trusty red tractor and his intimate knowledge of the land. The question is, what did this clever farmer do to solve his parking problem once and for all? Life in the Croatian countryside has always moved at its own pace. For generations, farmers like Davac have worked their land in peace, following the rhythms of nature that have guided their families for centuries. But in recent years, something changed in Davac's corner of the world, just outside Zagreb. You see, Davac's farm wasn't just any piece of land, it was a delicate ecosystem, balanced on the edge of survival. His property sat dangerously close to one of Zagreb's largest landfills, where toxic chemicals threatened to seep into his soil at any moment. Every crop he managed to grow was a small victory against these challenging conditions. Every harvest was precious, the result of careful planning and constant vigilance. But now, a new threat had emerged, one that Davac never saw coming. It started small, as most problems do. The local flea market a few blocks away had always been there, but something changed. Word spread about its unique finds and bargain prices, and suddenly, what was once a quiet Sunday gathering became the hottest weekend destination in the area. At first, Davac didn't mind the increased activity. The sound of happy shoppers in the distance was almost pleasant, a reminder that life was thriving in their little corner of Croatia. But then the market's parking lot began to fill up. And that's when everything changed. One Sunday morning, Davac noticed a silver car pulling onto his farmland, then another, and another. Like a slow invasion, vehicles began claiming his precious soil as their parking space. The drivers barely glanced his way as they stepped out of their cars, chatting and laughing, completely oblivious to the fact that they were trespassing on someone's livelihood. But was this really just about parking, or was there something deeper at stake here? Davac approached the first few cars politely. "Excuse me," he would say in his careful, measured voice, "this is private property. My farm's soil is very sensitive." Some would wave him off with annoyed gestures. Others would promise to move their cars but never did. Most simply pretended not to hear him at all. Week after week, the situation grew worse. Where once there were a few cars, now there were dozens. Each vehicle that parked on his land risked leaking oil, gas, or other fluids into his already vulnerable soil. For Davac, this wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a direct threat to his survival. You might wonder why he didn't call the police. But in small communities like this, things work differently. Making official complaints could mark you as a troublemaker, an outsider in your own home. Besides, by the time authorities would arrive, the damage would already be done. As the weeks turned into months, something began to change in Davac. The friendly farmer who once greeted everyone with a smile grew quieter, more withdrawn. The disrespect he faced every Sunday was wearing him down, changing him. But was he really the victim here? Or was he preparing something that would turn the tables on these unwitting trespassers? The answer to that question would soon become clear, but not in the way anyone expected. Then came that fateful Sunday morning. Something was different about Davac as he watched the usual stream of cars invade his property. There was a glint in his eye that hadn't been there before. As he walked to his barn, his steps had a purpose that made his few watching neighbors curious. The sound of his red tractor's engine roaring to life didn't raise any eyebrows at first. After all, what could be more natural than a farmer working his land on a Sunday morning? But those who knew Davac well might have noticed something unusual about his behavior. The methodical way he approached his task, the careful planning in his movements. What was going through his mind as he climbed onto that tractor? Was this the action of a man pushed too far, or was there a method to what he was about to do? As the market reached its peak crowds, Davac's tractor moved steadily through his field, carefully navigating between the parked cars. Hour after hour, he worked with precise determination. The shoppers, caught up in their bargain hunting, paid him no attention. Why would they? He was just a farmer on his tractor. But Davac wasn't just working his land, he was setting a trap that would teach these trespassers a lesson they'd never forget. The first hint that something was wrong came when a woman in designer shoes tried to return to her silver Peugeot. Where firm ground had been just hours before, there was now nothing but freshly plowed soil-soft, loose earth that swallowed her expensive heels. Her car sat like an island in a sea of mud, completely surrounded by thoroughly tilled farmland. The genius of Davac's plan became clear as more shoppers returned to their vehicles. He hadn't damaged any cars. He hadn't broken any laws. He had simply plowed his own land, every single inch of it, carefully working around each parked vehicle until they were all stranded in pools of soft, fertile soil. The scene that unfolded was both chaotic and darkly humorous. Expensive shoes sank into the fresh earth as frustrated drivers tried everything to free their vehicles. Tires spun helplessly, digging themselves deeper into the loose soil. The more they struggled, the more hopelessly stuck they became. Even when the police arrived, called by angry car owners, they could only shrug. What law had Davac broken? This was his land, and farmers have every right to plow their fields. As the sun began to set, Davac showed that his lesson wasn't about revenge. One by one, he used his tractor to help free the stranded vehicles, but not before each driver had spent hours contemplating the consequences of their actions. The message was clear: his land deserved respect. The story of Davac's creative solution spread far beyond Zagreb. Some criticized him for taking such extreme measures, while others praised his ingenious approach to protecting his livelihood. But for Davac, it was never about gaining attention or proving a point. It was about standing up for something precious, the land that had sustained his family for generations. The following Sunday, not a single car parked on Davac's property. The next weekend was the same, and the next. His simple but effective solution had worked perfectly. Sometimes the most powerful lessons are taught not through confrontation or anger, but by letting people experience the natural consequences of their actions. In the end, Davac's story reminds us that creativity and patience can often solve problems that force and confrontation cannot. His red tractor became a symbol of standing up for what's right, even when the odds seem stacked against you. As for the flea market, it's still there, bustling as ever. But now, visitors make sure to arrive early enough to find proper parking. And if you pass by Davac's farm on a Sunday morning, you might see him on his tractor, tending to his land in peace, just as he always wanted.